arterial supply of the abdominal part of the gut. The abdominal part of the gut is divided embryologically into three parts: foregut, midgut, and hindgut. The foregut, including the abdominal part of the esophagus, stomach, upper half of the duodenum to the ampulla of Vater, upper half of head of pancreas, neck, body, and the tail of pancreas. And the foregut also include the liver and the spleen. The arterial supply of the foregut is celiac trunk. Arterial supply of the foregut is the celiac trunk. This is during intrauterine fetal life. During formation of the foregut, the celiac trunk is formed to supply this part. While during formation of the midgut, the arterial supply formed to supply the midgut is supero-mesenteric. The midgut extends from the ampulla of Vater to the junction between the right 2/3 and the left 1/3 of transverse colon, including the lower half of the duodenum below the ampulla of Vater, lower half of head of pancreas and the uncinate process, jejunum, ileum, appendix, cecum, ascending colon, and the right 2/3 of transverse colon. This is the area supplied by supero-mesenteric artery, which is the artery of the midgut. This is the hindgut during intrauterine fetal life, and the artery formed to supply the hindgut is the inferior mesenteric artery. The hindgut including the left 1/3 of transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and the upper half of the anal canal. And all this area supplied by branches of inferior mesenteric. Let us take together the first artery, which is the celiac trunk. The celiac trunk arises from the front of the aorta at the level of the upper border of L1 vertebra. It passes forward just 1 centimeter, then end by divide into 3 terminal branches: left gastric, splenic, and hepatic. The celiac trunk is the arterial supply of the foregut. What are the relations of the celiac trunk? The most famous relation of celiac trunk is just below the celiac trunk is the upper border of the body of the pancreas. And we take pancreas before. Remember what is related to the upper border of the body: celiac trunk and one of its terminal branch, which is splenic artery. Just below the celiac trunk, there is the upper border of the body of pancreas, and on both sides, there is ganglion, autonomic ganglion called celiac ganglion, and there is a crus of the diaphragm. On the right side there is right crus, and on the left side there is left crus. This is the celiac trunk, and on each side there is a crus of diaphragm, and on each side there is a celiac ganglion. What is the anterior relation of the celiac trunk? This is the famous cut section at the level of liver, stomach, spleen, and this is the abdominal aorta on the posterior abdominal wall, and the celiac trunk just passing forward for 1 centimeter, then divide into 3 terminal branches. What is anterior to celiac trunk? This cavity, which is lesser sac, separating the celiac trunk from what? Separating celiac trunk from this. What is this? Lesser omentum. Lesser omentum. Therefore, anteriorly there is lesser omentum, separated from the celiac trunk by cavity of lesser sac. This is the celiac trunk, just below upper border of body of pancreas, on each side celiac ganglion and the crus of diaphragm, and just in front is this, the neighboring area to the lesser curvature, and we all know from the lesser curvature to the liver passing the lesser omentum. Therefore, just in front of celiac trunk is lesser omentum, separated from celiac trunk on the posterior abdominal wall by the cavity of the lesser sac. What are the branches of celiac trunk? The celiac trunk has 3 terminal branches. First of all, the first is artery passing upward to reach the cardia, then passes downward along the lesser curvature from left to right. This artery supplying the stomach, therefore it is gastric, and because this gastric artery passing on the lesser curvature from left to right, it is called left gastric artery. The left gastric artery arises from the celiac trunk as one of the 3 terminal branches of celiac trunk, passes upward to reach the cardia. Then it curves on the lesser curvature to pass on the lesser curvature from left to right. It ends by anastomosis with the right gastric artery. Since the left gastric passing on the lesser curvature, therefore it passes between the 2 layers of the lesser omentum. And the branches, sure, it is gastric. It gives gastric branches to the lesser curvature and the neighboring area. And never forget, it gives the esophageal branch to the abdominal part of the esophagus. The second branch is the largest branch of celiac trunk. The largest branch of celiac trunk is splenic artery. which has a tortuous course. Tortuous course above what? Tortuous course above the upper border of pancreas. And during its course on the posterior abdominal wall, it passes in front of left suprarenal gland and the left kidney. When the splenic artery reach in front of left kidney, the splenic artery needs to reach the spleen, which lies at anterior level to the kidney. How the splenic artery passes to the spleen? The splenic artery passes in. This is the celiac trunk. This is the splenic artery passing on the posterior abdominal wall until it reaches front of left kidney. The splenic artery should passes forward to the hilum of spleen in this peritoneal ligament, which is a ligament between left kidney and the spleen. Therefore, it is called lieno-renal ligament or spleno-renal ligament. Sure, this ligament, as any peritoneal ligament, formed of two layers. And between the two layers of lieno-renal or spleno-renal ligament, passing the splenic artery to reach the hilum of the spleen. It is well known, and we all know, that passage of splenic artery in the lieno-renal ligament is accompanied by the tail of pancreas and accompanied by splenic vein, extraperitoneal fat, lymph vessels, and lymph nodes. It ends in the hilum of spleen. The splenic artery ends in the hilum of spleen by giving terminal splenic branches. What are the branches of splenic artery? Along its course, it gives pancreatic branches to pancreas, and it gives branches to the upper, many branches to the upper part of the stomach, which are short gastric arteries, which pass in the gastrosplenic ligament, and branch which pass on the greater curvature from left to right. Therefore, it is called left. And this branch gives gastric branches and epiploic branches. Branches passing downward called epiploic branches to supply the greater omentum. Therefore, this artery is called left gastroepiploic artery. And finally, the splenic artery gives terminal splenic branches to the spleen. These are the branches of splenic artery, which is the largest branch from celiac trunk. The third terminal branch of celiac trunk is branch passing to the right. Therefore, there is branch passing up, left gastric, branch pass to the left, splenic, and this terminal branch passing to the right, to the liver. Therefore, it is called hepatic artery. The hepatic artery passes to the right above the first part of the duodenum. Above the first part of the duodenum. Then it passes upward in the free border of the lesser omentum, with the famous relation in the free border of the lesser omentum. It passes in the free border of the lesser omentum on the left side of common bile duct and in front of portal vein. Um, this artery, hepatic artery, gives gastroduodenal artery. The gastroduodenal artery lies at a junction between the part of hepatic artery which passes directly to the right and the part of hepatic artery passing directly upward. Therefore, by the origin of gastroduodenal artery, the hepatic artery is divided into this horizontal part called common hepatic, while the part passing upward to the liver in the free border of the lesser omentum is called hepatic artery proper. Therefore, this is the origin of gastroduodenal. Proximal to gastroduodenal is common hepatic artery. The artery passing upward in the free border of the omentum is called hepatic artery proper. What are the branches of hepatic artery? First of all, it gives a branch passing on the lesser curvature from right to left. Therefore, it's called right. And this branch supplying only the stomach. Therefore, it's called right gastric artery, which passing on the lesser curvature. Since it passes between the lesser curvature, therefore it passes between the two layers of the lesser omentum. And it ends on the lesser curvature by anastomosing with left gastric artery. The gastroduodenal artery descends downward behind the first part of the duodenum with the same relation as the structures in the free border of the omentum. The gastroduodenal artery replaces the hepatic artery in the free border of the omentum. The gastroduodenal artery descends downward behind the first part of the duodenum. Therefore, anteriorly, there is the first part of the duodenum, and on its right side, the same as hepatic artery, common bile duct, and posterior to gastroduodenal artery is the portal vein. The gastroduodenal artery is called the gastro because it gives the right gastroepiploic. It is right because it passes on the greater curvature from right to left. Gastro because it gives gastric branches. And the epiploic because it gives a downward branches to the greater omentum. And these branches to greater omentum are called the epiploic branches. Therefore, it is called right gastroepiploic. The left gastroepiploic from the splenic, and the right gastroepiploic from hepatic, from gastroduodenal. Passing on the greater curvature, sure, passing on the greater curvature, therefore it passes between the anterior two layer of the greater omentum. The gastroduodenal artery gives gastric branches, which is right gastroepiploic, and gives the duodenal branch, which is called superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. The superior pancreaticoduodenal artery supplying the upper half of the duodenum until the ampulla of water and the upper part of the head of pancreas. The hepatic artery also gives a branch to the first part of the duodenum called supraduodenal artery. Supraduodenal artery. Finally, in the porta hepatis, the hepatic artery divides into right and left terminal branches to the right and left lobe of the liver. Never forget that the right hepatic artery gives like hepatic artery to the right towards the gallbladder. Therefore, it gives usually the arterial supply to the gallbladder, which is cystic artery. Therefore, the hepatic gives right gastric, gastroduodenal, which gives right gastrooblique and superior-pancreatic-duodenal artery, and supraduodenal artery, and the terminal branches, including the right terminal branch gives cystic artery. These are the branches of the celiac trunk. Is celiac trunk is a successful artery supplying the abdominal part of our gut? Sure. The celiac trunk, branch of celiac trunk supplying the abdominal part of the esophagus by esophageal branches of left gastric. Branches of celiac trunk supplying the stomach by 5 arteries. 5 arteries on the lesser curvature, 2 lesser on the lesser curvature, left gastric and right gastric, and 3 on the greater curvature, short gastric, left gastrooblique and right gastrooblique. And the celiac trunk supplying the upper half of the duodenum until the ampulla of water and the upper half of the head of pancreas by superior pancreatic duodenal artery. The celiac trunk supplying neck, body, tail of pancreas by pancreatic branches of splenic. And finally, we supply the spleen by splenic artery and supply the liver by hepatic artery. This is the arterial supply of the foregut. Thank you for good listening and good luck.